right, hello everyone, and welcome. It is so great to have you here. My name is Shannon Taylor. I am representative at large for the OB division, and along with Andreas Richter and Harry Wong, we are thrilled to have you here, and we're just really excited. Um, I'd like to welcome you all to this online event. Um, we'll get started here, and I mean, without any further ado, we'll get going. Okay, so preparing for the job market, it's my delight, my pleasure to welcome you all here. Margaret Luciano is also one of our representatives at large, helps organize these sorts of events. Special thanks to Aaron for helping us with some slide things and other logistical things. The goal here is to provide you with some advice, some tips, some insights about the job market. We know this is one of the most stressful times, and it's a very exciting time as well. We are fortunate to be joined by several faculty who are going to share their insights with you throughout the day here. Before we get into our programming for the day, I want to just mention that there are a number of sessions and other sorts of activities that the OB division and the executive committee in particular organizes that you can use as resources. There are sessions, for example, to help enhance your productivity. There are opportunities for networking with senior scholars and others. And there are also, of course, lots of opportunities to help develop your research. Here are just a couple of examples of sessions that we organize and that will be happening at the Academy of Management meeting in Copenhagen. There are others as well, including how to manage academic collaborations. There are some sessions that are specifically targeted to geographic areas of the job market. So, for example, there are sessions about Asia Pacific, finding a job in Europe. And of course, there are also sessions on navigating the publication process. So my point in sharing all of this with you is that I want you to know that this session today is part of a larger effort that we have to provide support for you all in various aspects of your professional lives. So I hope you're able to attend some of those sessions in Copenhagen. Lots of great advice there, excellent speakers, and really well run by the organizers as well. I should also briefly mention sort of some ground rules or some sort of norm setting here this morning. Our goal, broadly speaking, is to support each of you in any way that we can. We want to share experiences and offer advice that you and others can learn from, and help you, better understand the job market. I should point out that we are a very large division. And so we are going to try to offer advice that is generalizable across specific positions, specific academic institutions, and so on. And ultimately, this is your career and your life. So we're going to make suggestions, but ultimately, you're the ones who make the decisions. Um, at the same time, I should mention that just some sort of logistical things. Please keep yourself muted while you're in the main room. There'll be a point where we send everyone into breakout rooms, and you're welcome to sort of turn on your video, turn on your microphone, get introductions with everyone in your breakout room. While we're here in the main room, please feel free to use the Q&A function if you have questions for any of our speakers or us. And otherwise, try to keep your questions of broad relevance and not necessarily about one specific position at one specific school or university. So with those sort of ideas in mind, I'd like to start part one of our session. So this will be tips and practices from the other side of the table. So we have a number of expert faculty roundtable leaders that will be joining us with breakout rooms. I want to just briefly recognize them here. We have Mike Baer from Arizona State, Chad Hartnell from Georgia State, Stephen Courtwright at the University of Iowa, Jordan Nielsen at Purdue, Parker Ellen at Mississippi State, Richard Gardner at BYU, Michael Johnson at the University of Washington, Dana Joseph at the University of Central Florida, Vijaya Venkataramani, I hope I got that right, University of Maryland, as well as Dave Level at University of Pittsburgh. And wait, there's more. Sarah Harvey at UCL, Kylie Rochford at University of Utah, Katina Sawyer at Arizona, Christina Shalley at Georgia Tech, Crystal Farr at the University of Washington, Chris Rosen at Arkansas, Brian Swider at Florida, David Tannenbaum at Utah, and John Dellery at Arkansas. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm very excited to see you all again and can't wait to cut you loose and get you sharing your advice and stuff. Before we get there, though, we're going to have an expert faculty panel. So for the next 15 minutes or so, Michael Johnson and Dana Joseph will be sharing some of their advice and their experiences. They are both well established in our field. You can read their full bios here, but the main point I'd like to try to get across is that they are veteran search committee members. They've been a part of multiple searches for different faculty positions across levels, and they've got a lot of experience. And so I'm really excited to have them share their insights with you all today.
Thank you, Shannon. Yeah,
take it away.
Go. All right. Yeah, you can move to the next slide then. So hi, everybody. I'm Michael Johnson from the University of Washington, and I'm happy to announce that we will actually be hiring for OB this year. Given the current political climate in the United States, I'm guessing there aren't going to be lots of job openings in U.S. schools this year, but we are one of those that will be hiring, and I'll be chairing the search committee. If you're interested in the University of Washington, we would love to see your application. And what Dana and I want to talk about today is what it takes to really not only get a flyout, but to get an offer. Because really, the job market is a two-stage process. First, you've got to be able to get a flyout. You've got to be able to visit the universities, and then you've got to convert that into a job offer. And the framework that we're using here is based upon organization fit theory. And if you're familiar with that, then you know that there are two different kinds of fit that are often talked about in that literature. Complementary fit is where we need something as a department and you can provide it. Supplementary fit is where we want more of the same. Like we want you to provide something that is consistent with what we already have. And this model suggests that it's not perfect, but that complementary fit is assessed more by the search committee in trying to sift through all of the different applicants. And we get over 100 applicants every time we have a job opening, where we sift through those and then decide who we're going to ask to come to campus. Now, sometimes there's an intermediary step with some universities here where they might do a Zoom call or something like that. But in general, what all search committees are trying to do is to say, do you have the things that we need to fill in this particular position? And can you fill them the best out of all of the possible applicants? Then we invite, in our school, typically 4 people to come to campus, give job talks, meet with faculty. And at that point, we're still assessing complementary fit a little bit. Like we saw some signals of this in your packet, in your application packet, and we're going to assess that a little bit more when we see you do your job talk and when we talk with you personally. But then a lot of what we're trying to do in this, in the time that you're at our campus, is to assess your supplementary fit. Are you one of us? Do we see you as meshing with the other people that we have in the department currently? And so the kind of factors that it takes to get a flyout are often very different from the factors that it takes to get an offer once you get a flyout. And so the successful candidates are the ones who nail both, where in their packets they can show, I can provide what you need. And when they're actually on campus visiting, they can say, I'm like you, I'm one of you, and I can fit in to the culture that you have here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about complementary fit, then I'm going to turn it over to Dana to talk about supplementary fit. So Shannon, can we move to the next slide, please? go. Okay. So whenever we hire, we have particular needs that we're trying to fill. And often, in every case, there are research areas, not necessarily that we are looking for a specific research area, although we have done that in the past, but that we are looking for somebody who probably provides expertise in a research area that we don't currently have on our faculty so that we can expand our portfolio. Now, there are some cases where departments will want to get a certain critical mass of people studying in the same general area, but nobody wants complete overlap between two faculty doing the exact same research and probably publishing with each other all the time. We want to be able to diversify our portfolio in some ways. So we're looking for somebody who provides something a little different, but complementary to the kinds of things that we are researching in our department. And then secondly, we often have teaching needs where maybe a faculty member has left who has been teaching some particular courses, and we need someone to be able to fill that, or we need, sometimes we talk about it as bench strength, so that if a faculty member is going to go on sabbatical, we've got other people that can fill those courses. And so we're looking for people who can fill those particular teaching needs. That may be at the whatever level it's at, graduate versus undergraduate, or it may be for some specific course topics. Like we don't have someone right now, that's not true for us, but maybe an example would be we don't have somebody who can teach negotiations. And so we're going to look for someone maybe who has experience in teaching negotiations. So we have particular needs and we're looking to see whether you can fill those needs. The second is, how well will you be able to go from being a student, if you're newly minted, to being a faculty member? And so that can involve the research area, your network references. That's where we're going to look for those signals that you can make a transition to being an effective faculty member. The recommendation letters often matter a lot, where particularly if it's from people we know, and if they can give signals that you can provide these things we need, then that can go a long way to getting you to get a flyout. And then also we look at your dissertation progress. No school really wants to hire someone who's ABD. Sometimes we do, but we want to see evidence that you're going to be able to finish your dissertation either before you join us or soon after. And this can vary from school to school. And then for schools, particularly schools that have doctoral programs, we're looking for your ability to potentially mentor students. So we want to see that you're not just going to be a buddy-buddy with other doctoral students, although that's fine, but rather that you can mentor them and develop them so that they will ultimately be able to make the transition to faculty members themselves in a couple of years. Dana, anything to add to this one before I get to the next slide on complementary fit?
No, go right ahead.
Okay, thanks. So there are only a couple of ways that we can really assess your complementary fit. And the most important one is your application packet. So it needs to be clear, up-to-date vita. And we generally don't care so much if you have lots of things that are under first review, but rather R&Rs matter and obviously publications matter. But as you go through the summer and into the fall, if you have updates to your vita, then that's really good for us to see. Even if you got a rejection, that can be good. Don't try to impression manage this too much. Try to be as honest and open as possible. Be transparent as to where you are. Personalize your cover letter and pack it to the school. I've seen some cover letters where people say, I'm really looking forward to potentially being a faculty member at the University of Oregon. And like, we're not the University of Oregon, we're the University of Washington. And so you want to make sure that you are personalizing this. You can say things about particular faculty members or about the city or school that this is, and to show how interested you are in that, in the school, in the department, and in the region or the city. highlight how you might contribute. And this is because some doctoral students think that getting a good job is a reward for the hard work they've done, and it's not. Getting a good job is a decision by the school that they predict that you will be a good faculty member based upon what you've done in the past. So we're not rewarding you. Rather, we're saying, are you going to do good work when you're here? And so we want to see how you can contribute to us, not how we can, reward you for what you've done in the past. And then finally, this recommendation letters. If it's people that we know, that goes much farther than people we don't know. Now, you can't necessarily do that for all of your recommendation letters, but if you can do it for some, and you might even ask different people to write different recommendation letters for different schools, such that there's, they would be people that the search committee and the other people in the department know in those recommendation letters, that can be really effective. And yeah, I think that's all. Dana, anything to add to that one?
No, I think that's great. Shannon, if you want to go ahead and skip to the next slide there. Michael, thanks for doing an excellent summary of one type of fit. Let's say you've done everything he suggested and you're lucky enough to get chosen for a flyout. You're going to be spending a couple of days with these folks, right? And once you get to that stage, the goal there is to, as Michael said, you want to convince people that you're one of them, that you'd fit right in, and people can see you going out to lunch with the group and attending brown bags and working on research together, right? I think at this stage, some people assume that this involves a little bit of faking it, like faking that you will fit right in, or faking your interest in the job, or faking some research ideas that you might be interested in or overlap with the faculty who are there. And I'd like to encourage you not to fake it and instead really try to be that person instead of just faking it. In other words, I think most places want someone who really does want to collaborate, really does want to be around and talk shop and be in the hallways and be able to bounce ideas off of. I think most programs really do want that type of faculty member. So I'd encourage you to think about how you can be that type of faculty member in the future and sell yourself that way as well, as someone who's really going to be around and available and excited about working with people. And instead of just kind of coming up with some research ideas that are like half-baked of maybe we could collaborate on this or maybe we could collaborate on that, really come up with some solid opportunities for collaboration. And even if you don't get the job, then you've got some, like step 0 of some future research ideas that you can work on with people you interviewed with, right? So there are advantages even if you end up not getting the job. But the goal of this step is to get to a place where people are like, I want to work with that person. And some of that is by signaling out loud that you want to be around and you want to be collaborating and you want to be doing research with the people in the department and discussing those ideas. And some of it is signaling out loud that you're interested in the job. I think a lot of people forget to say that. And we just all, we kind of assume, well, if I'm interviewing, everyone knows I want the job. They do not. They absolutely do not. And I've seen some faculty members make maybe on the back end of things when you're trying to figure out who to make an offer to, sometimes we have to guess about, well, I don't know if this person actually wants this job or not, right? Like they seemed interested, but maybe they sent a weird cue to one person in one 15-minute interview about maybe they're actually more interested in living in the north instead of in the south where our university is. So sometimes little teeny tiny cues can end up being relayed in a search committee meeting, and then they're magnified 1,000-fold. And all of a sudden, we're all in the room wondering, does this person even want to be here? So if you say it out loud and signal it very clearly to everyone you talk to, I'm interested in this job and here's why, and you do have real interest in the job, then you kind of skip over all that. Shannon, will you click to the next slide? I know we got to wrap up here pretty quickly. I'm sure when we get to the breakout rooms, you'll get lots of great advice on how to make your job talk a phenomenal job talk. I think the biggest issues there are making sure that you're not just selling the current study of your job talk, but you're selling yourself as a researcher and the future of your research program. So it isn't enough to just give a great job talk about your dissertation. You also have to signal that you can handle questions really well and not defensively, and get excited about answering questions and, oh, I could do that in the future. You also have to signal that you and make some really strong cues that are available to everyone in the room about the likelihood of success of your future projects, right? So you aren't just selling your one study you're talking about or your two studies you're talking about, and you're showing a whole program of research, the studies that you're currently talking about, the studies that are under review, the studies that are the big research questions you're planning on addressing in the next 5 years. Show the whole program. So you're selling your entire program of research, not just your one study or two studies. Obviously, you're going to have to manage your time really well, practice the heck out of it so you don't have as many awkward stumbles. And in all of your interviews, make sure that you know everything's an interview. Outside of the job talk, you're going to meet with a bunch of people. Some of them might not seem like they are interviews. Like if someone takes you on a real estate tour, that might not seem like it's an interview, but it is, because those folks come back. Even your real estate agent will come back to the search committee and they'll say, oh, this person said they actually don't want the job. And then you're out, right? So everything is an interview. Shannon, I know we're supposed to end at 11:25, so I'll kind of pause there, right? Is that right? Timing wise? And then we can shift over to the breakout room so we don't steal anyone's breakout room time. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, you guys are good. Yeah, we'll do that. So thank you both, Michael and Dana. Excellent stuff. I appreciate you keeping us on time, Dana. Harry, if you wouldn't mind, so Harry's in the background here. He's going to open up breakout rooms. So once you get that invitation, go ahead and select it. And there will be a faculty member in there to join you shortly. Again, introduce yourselves, and you'll have 25 minutes to ask questions and to be there and listen. And we will call you back at that time, and we'll sort of wrap up part one of our session here today.
So welcome to part two. So my name is Andreas. I'm a co-organizer of this PDW. I'm also a rep at large here in the UB division. And in part two, we like to sort of switch the table and look at preparations for the job market, but this time from more recent graduates, people who are not so far out of the job market search themselves, and who give us this other perspective on the challenges of landing a job, right? So we called it reflections and advice to my former self. Just see slides work. Okay, so just for those maybe who joined new now in part two, just sort of recapping, the key goals here and the assumptions. So this is to, support each of you, to offer experience and to allow us to sort of offer advice and share experiences that we can learn from each other from, so that we can all build a better understanding of the job market. And as Shannon mentioned earlier, we are broadly focused on issues related to the OBHR job market, not specific markets or types of jobs. And we make suggestions, but of course it's your career and you will make the decisions. So please take the input as, well-intended advice. Just a few playing rules, really. We are quite a big group here. Please mute yourself in the main room. Use the Q&A function if you have general questions for any of our speakers, and in particular in the breakout, for the breakout leaders. When in the breakout, please put your video on and perhaps introduce yourself very briefly then to the breakout room leader, and do ask questions of broad relevance, not so much very idiosyncratic and very specific questions, so that we can all really learn from each other, right? Good. So let me just briefly acknowledge our roundtable leaders. So a huge thank you at this point, for our junior faculty roundtable leaders who you're taking out time out of your busy schedules to help us with this. It's really highly appreciated. So let me just briefly recognize the roundtable leaders. So we have Simin Park here from Penn State, Zachariah Barry from Southern California, Tobias Dennerlein from Purdue, Begum Bilgin from Liverpool, O'Darian Boncoeur from Notre Dame, Nitya Shavla from Minnesota, Monique Domingo from Louisiana State, Samantha Erskine from the University of Massachusetts, Olivia Foster Gimble from Rutgers University, Grace Ching-Chi Ho from Southern Methodist University, and it continues, Rachel Hahn from Purdue, Edwina Hill from University of South Carolina, Myra Azarins from the University of Arkansas, Chris Winchester from the University of Minnesota, Velvetina Lim from Warwick Business School, Sean Parkinson from Washington State, Brady Shanklin from the University of Mississippi, and Francisco Gonzalez from Louisiana State University. So again, a huge thank you to you in supporting this and giving up your time, right, and giving up your valuable advice and guidance to those students soon or currently on the job market. So before we go to the roundtables, however, we first like to have a bit of a panel discussion with two individuals who have been more recently been through the process, right, and who kindly agreed to have this panel discussion with us. So this is Simin Park from Penn State and Nitya Shavla from the University of Minnesota. Thank you so much for being here and for having this panel discussion with us. So this is going to be very informal, setting the stage for the breakout rooms, giving us really your views on on the job market process, and the package and the flyouts, etc. So maybe we can start first with, could you, Simin and Nitya, perhaps briefly introduce yourself and just in broad strokes share your story with respect to the job market?
Okay, I'll go first. I'm Simin Park. I'm assistant professor at Penn State University. I grew up in Seoul, and I did my BBA and MS in Seoul National University before joined University of Connecticut for my PhD. So actually my job market, first one was not that recent. It was 2018. And my first job was at University of Iowa. And then my second unofficial job market was 5 years later, 2023, when I moved to Penn State last summer. So that's about me. Today's conversation, I am going to focus more about my experience when I was at the first job market as a rookie, because I think most of the audience is in grad school. All right, Nitya, take it away.
Thanks, Simon. Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. I am Nitya Shavla. I am an assistant professor at the University of Minnesota. I grew up in Singapore, so actually not that far from Seoul in comparison, and then moved to complete my PhD at the University of Arizona, where I graduated in 2020. And so kind of like Simon, my first working market experience was a little while ago. It was back in 2019, and then I went back on the job market. So I got a job at Texas A&M University, started there in 2020, and then in 2022 went back on the market as an assistant professor, only to join the University of Minnesota the following year in 2023. So I will also mostly be sharing about my rookie market experience, but I'm happy to share more about the second one in breakout rooms. And I think when responding to the panel questions in particular, it'll probably be a mix of all those different things, along with some things that I learned because I've also served on search committees when I was at Texas A&M University.
That's great. Thank you so much. So let's get started right away with, the first sort of question. Any advice on preparing the application packet from your perspective?
I can go first for this one, and then we can switch maybe for the second one, Simon. So I really appreciated, in the first part of this session, you heard Michael Johnson talk about a cover letter. That was actually something that I had written down as well. A good cover letter, I think, can go a long way. And what is good is subjective, obviously, right? But remember, so much of your packet for academic jobs is pretty generic, right? You're going to reuse your research statement and your teaching statement for every single job that you apply to. The cover letter, however, is your only personalized part of your packet. And so use that opportunity to highlight what is exciting about a particular place. As someone, again, who's served on search committees, we do read the cover letter carefully. We've also come across situations like Michael was talking about where someone was like, I'm applying to this university, and you're like, that's not us, but good to know that that's all where you're also applying. But the other part about a good cover letter, right? It helps you get excited about a place, right? Spend that time to get to know the department, any initiatives the college is engaging in or the university is engaging in, something about the town. I do think it's good to personalize your cover letter. So if you feel like, you have a childhood friend who lives in that area, that's a big draw. We would look at that because we'd be like, oh yeah, this person's probably more likely to come here because they have personal ties. Now, it doesn't necessarily make up for a bomb job talk, for instance, but it does help you rise above when we're comparing among a bunch of really good candidates for the job.
Great point.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think when we are customizing, one thing that really you have to be careful is just really thorough. So not only just like not mentioning, the right school name, but I also have seen some cases where you're really emphasizing excitement about PhD program when you are not actually applying to the school that has PhD program. So something like that, you have to be very, very thorough and careful and genuine. And another thing that I see a common mistake, myself included, make as a rookie job market preparation phase is don't just use the cover letter as a list of things that you published or in publication. Just like, sometimes the cover letter reads as if it's the paragraph version of CV, and that's not a good use of cover letter. Make a storytelling. If there's something that you really want to anchor to, you can kind of make a really conversational cover letter that is not just a list of things that you accomplished that they can actually see from your CV. So really maximize that. I think is really important.
That's great. Thank you very much. So when it comes to, IOM is coming close, right? IOM interviews and flyouts. What are your thoughts, with the benefit of hindsight? What would you have done differently? What would you like to emphasize? What's on your mind on that? Whoever wants to start first.
Yeah. So this time I will go first. So I'm gonna divide into two different interview types, right? One can be very informal interviews that can happen at AOM or like someone who just introduced you to someone. That's different setting than, let's say, Zoom interview, or even when you're having conversation at your job talk. So starting from like casual, informal interview, you can come across with this someone at any point of time. So when you're on job market, make sure that you practice and prepare some of the talking points. Of course, like it's not like you have to make a script and then narrate like a robot. You have to be a human. But what I mean by that is you have to know yourself and your keywords that can really resonate with people. So when you're making conversation, just like some comedians, like stand-up comedians can do, you have to have a conversation. So start with something really big picture and then make them to be curious about things that, okay, tell me more. And then if you come across with someone who's in your area, you should be more specific, right? So you gotta make sure that you have a couple of different version and depth of, so to say, elevator pitch that is very conversational, not like abstract in journal article. And that's some common mistake that myself included made when I was in rookie market, that I almost like approached that as like, this is academic, serious job market, make it sounding academic. No, it's actually conversation. So that's something that I really learned and can be very helpful for that. And the second thing is, I really think it goes a long way if you know yourself and leverage your strength. So I cannot be someone who's 6'3" tall and like masculine and very charismatic. That's not me, right? So I know myself. Sometimes I come across as like, oh, Samin, you're just like little cute, some, very not serious person in some context. But I know I'm actually leaning more to that, and I'm actually very personable. I bring to the table of this knowledge that I'm not really obnoxious. So that can be really a strength, right? If you think about it. So know yourself and leverage your strength. And when you talk to people, make sure that you can be also beneficial to them. So connect what they might need and offer some help or offer something that you can, bring to the table. Even if you feel like you're like only student and what am I doing here? Now I'm talking to this full professor, and that's not the mindset you have to go into. They're going to be your colleague. You are, yes, still student, but you're going to be soon becoming their colleague. So you have to bring something to the table that they can value you. So that's like my 2 cents.
Thank you.
I
Thank you so much. Yeah, Nithya. Sorry.
Yes, I have two big ones, and the first I'll go in the opposite order of what I was thinking, because I think the first one actually builds right from what someone was saying. I cannot stress enough how important it is to be authentically yourself when you are on the job market. Dana mentioned this a little bit. Like, yes, we're all engaging in impression management, and that is normal. It is also exhausting, and so to help with that, just be yourself. That's the person that is going to show up to this department every single day, right? And so have confidence in what you have to offer. Also recognize, with that idea of authenticity, that we're always talking to one another when we're searching for a candidate, right? And so, for instance, I'm just going to pick on someone for a second, but if she were to come to Minnesota and she was just like, y'all, Minnesota is my top choice, like I would accept in an instant. And then I'm talking to Shannon because UCF's also hiring, and I'm like, Shannon, I think we got someone in the bag. Like, she said that we're her top choice. And Shannon's like, hold up a second. She told us that we're her top choice. And this happens more often than not. And that starts to introduce a lot of doubt into the process, right? I also think it's okay to kind of say, I am really, really interested in coming here. I'm excited to be here for all these different reasons. And at the same time, like, I have a partner, a working partner at home who I need to speak to, right, before accepting a job offer. That's genuine, that's raw, that's authentic, that's okay, that should be respected by the place that you are applying to. And if it's not, that's a pretty big signal in and of itself. Now, it's your choice always as to how much you want to share about your situation, right? I'm not trying to suggest that you should share more than you're comfortable with, but if that's a big part of your journey and your story and that's important to you, that's okay. And I think that that kind of, leads me to my second big part. Michael, I really talked about this idea of like from the search committee perspective, right? Or the department's perspective that's looking to hire, it's all about fit. And it's funny that he says that because I've given this talk a couple of different times in different settings, and I actually say it's all about fit, except I'm talking about it from the applicant's perspective. Always remember that, this is as much of an opportunity for you to evaluate the place that you are applying to as it is for them to apply, to select you. And so trust your gut. We know our own research suggests that emotions during the job search matter. And so use the signals that you are receiving when you are at a place. How are faculty members talking to one another? How are students talking about the place? These are all good points of information. And maybe you're picking up on something that's actually really important to you, and it's okay to use that information, right, in whichever way you are most comfortable with. And so just keep that in mind as well.
Thank you, Nitya and Simi. That's great. So I very much like the idea of authenticity, being true to yourself in this, and also that this is actually a two-way process, right? It's not just you looking for a job. It's it's really literally a two-way process. I think that's a very, very, very good idea. In the interest of time, I think we probably have one more question. So if there would be, let's say, one common pitfall to avoid, by all means, it would be one thing to single out and one thing that is particularly important to single out. Would you be able to, pinpoint to one point?
I think for this one, maybe I'll lean into something that's like very relevant at the rookie market process, and that is not distinguishing yourself enough from the program or your advisor. And so, and that's a really hard thing for me to say because you've spent 4 to 5 years, sometimes 6 years, working very closely with this person. Your research identity has been developed partly because of their research identity or in alignment with their research identity. And so when I say this, what I mean is, during the job talk, we've seen situations in which we've asked a rookie candidate something and their answer has been like, oh, well, I did this because my dissertation committee told me to do this. Or, why did you choose this topic? Oh, my advisor thought it would be a really good topic on the job market. Those types of responses tend to kind of get our spidey senses up a little bit. And so, that's kind of what I mean by, of course the research that you're doing is likely a big byproduct of the work that you've been doing with different faculty members at your department. But it's also your work, and it's important to take ownership of what is yours and be able to establish yourself as an independent scholar, because that is who you are going to be as you join a department as an assistant professor.
My one thing is you can only control what you can control. So anxiety perspective, one thing that you have to really remember is there's so many things that goes on like that is out of your control. And that's not to make you feel like like you don't have any control in the situation. But for example, let's say you are the top candidate and Michael Johnson also mentioned this school happened to really need someone to teach some kind of topic that you might not be suitable. And those kind of schools focus sometimes is not really visible in the job posting, to be honest. And sometimes during the recruiting process, that focus can actually shift as well. So don't be so despaired by the fact that you didn't get a call or you didn't get a good signal, because it might not be because you did something wrong, but because something that is going on with the school or something that is like has nothing to do with you is actually making some decisions that is a little bit not going to your way. So what I'm trying to say is don't read too much into those negative feedback. Also, do not ever compare yourself with your cohort. Like, like start getting flyouts and you get, anxious, but like just focus on yourself, focus on what you can control, true to yourself, and be open-minded. Because even those schools or cities or whatsoever, you might find yourself like, oh my God, I never thought about this school or this city or this region will be a place that I envision myself living in. But now I visited, now I talk to the person, I'm very excited. I have seen so many cases like that. So those things are really going to help you navigate this very anxiety-provoking process.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Nitya and Simin. That's great. And let's use this really as a platform now for the breakout rooms. So what we will do is we will put you into breakout rooms. You will need to accept the invitation. And in each breakout room, there would be the students who have registered for this PDW, as well as one more recent, junior faculty who's been through the process more recently. Good. So I think now everybody is back, right? Great. So I hope the breakout room discussions, they were useful to you. What we like to do as a sort of takeaway or wrap up, we like you to have a look at this QR code. There is a little survey, and Shannon also has posted the link in the chat if you rather like to use this to access the survey. Just really reflecting on collective insights, specifically 3 useful pieces of advice shared today that particularly resonated with you. 2 things you want to put into action from what you learned today. And, oops, sorry, stick fingering. One aspect of the job market that you would like to gain broader perspective on. And this will also be, I think, really helpful then for all of us. And we will create a report that we will share with those who indicate in the survey that they like to have a report for this, right? In addition, we have recorded this session, and we will cut this a little bit shorter and then make it available to you on the OB division website, right? So you can also really revisit this PDW. Good. And then finally, really, I'd like to again thank our panelists and our roundtable leaders for giving up their time. Your very valuable advice for managing the breakout group discussions. It really is highly appreciated. It's such an important contribution to this PDW. Thank you. And on behalf of the doctoral committee, we look forward to seeing you in Copenhagen.